Easy Sand 20. That's what I'm going to use for the quickset. Now you can get quickset 5 minute, 15 minute, 20, 30, 45, 90. That just gives you an idea of how long you have before you need to mix up some more and let it dry, put on the next coat. 20 means I've got a little bit of time with it. I don't have a whole lot of time. So if you're just starting out and you want to do a patch, I would suggest going with 45 minute or even 90 minute, depending on how good you are with mixing it up and that kind of thing. Now we only have a small little patch here, so I'm glad I had some Easy Sand 20, because I'm going to go up over that tape probably 2 different times. I'll put one coat on there, and then I only have to wait a few minutes for it to dry. I don't have to wait 20 minutes before I can apply the next coat. And that's the beauty of using this Easy Sand quickset, I call it. It's a lightweight, what it is, it's called lightweight setting type joint compound. And this is the Easy Sand 20. Now your hardware store, you might have something different than that, but it's kind of the same type idea. This is dry material, and I'm going to have to mix that up in a sheetrock pan, put a little water in there, and I'm good to go. Now when you first work with quickset, make sure you don't mix up an entire pan. You only want to mix up a little bit at a time until you get used to the product that you're working with. Because if you're not aware of what you're doing, if it takes you a while longer to put it up, it's going to harden up in the pan. You may end up having to throw a lot of it away, or it's getting thicker in the pan, and you don't want to start putting it on being too thick, because it's not going to dry and stick properly. Okay? Easy as you go, a little bit at a time, and you'll get her. On this particular video series, I'm not going to show you how to mix up the quickset. I've got plenty of other videos on my channel for that. Look for them. I've mixed up some quickset. And I've got an actual little hole here to just fill right on up. So that's all I'm going to do here. Put on a little bit at a time. Kind of tricky to go overhead with it because it always wants to spooge off your blade. This first coat, just want to concentrate on getting it on before it dries in my pan. Not quite sure how long it's going to take before it starts drying in my pan. Ooh, just dropped some there on my leg. Put it on my knife. I want to wipe off my edges. I want to take some on here and wipe off the surrounding edges of my knife, so that hopefully not much of it wants to come off on me. If I get it right in the middle, then I don't have to wipe it off. And here I'm backhanding it up so I don't have to move. So as you put it on, you'll get the hang of doing it forwards, and backwards, sideways, and all kinds of ways. I'm wiping it off the edges like that. Put it on there. Another reason why I like to use craft paper instead of a drop cloth, because when this stuff gets on a regular drop cloth, it's hard to clean off, or after a while you just leave big old goobs on it, goobers. With my craft paper, I don't have to do that. Now lots of times your patches aren't going to go as nice as this because we had an indentation groove because we removed that tape. Lots of times you're not going to get that lucky, you know. That's all I want to do on this first coat. I don't want to get it too perfect because the more you play with the first coat, the more you start pulling it along and all that, you know. So I'm going to let this dry now. Because I've used 20 minutes, it's not going to take very long to dry. And I only have to let it dry. I don't have to let it dry all the way before I put the next coat on. As long as it's hard, it can still have the moisture in there. You notice see how much darker that is than the surrounding areas? Well, in order for it to be 100% dry, you shouldn't see that line at all. But the beauty of using the quickset is it can still be that color, and as long as it feels rock hard and you can scrape over it, nothing's going to happen, then you can put the second coat on. You don't have to let it dry all the way. With all-purpose joint compound, you have to let it dry 100% because as it's drying, it's shrinking. And if you coat it before it dries all the way and you think it's smooth, the second coat, and you sand it and all and get ready to paint it, and all of a sudden you look at it after everything's done, you can see right where your patch is. That's because your all-purpose joint compound has shrunk when it dried all the way. Now because I'm using quickset, I'm not going to have that problem, and neither will you. Now you might say, well, how do you know to mix up just enough to do your little project before you need some more? Well, you don't. And see, I've got some extra here. What I've got to do, this is going to harden up in the pan, so I've got to take it out of here. I'm going to end up throwing it away, so I'm just going to scoop this off to the side. And that's going to be a throwaway amount. So I mixed up a little bit too much, didn't I? I didn't mix up that much either, but that's all right. That's just what happens sometimes when you use quickset. Got to get this out of the container of your sheetrock pan in order to get ready to mix up for your next batch. You don't want any of that, any dry bits in here, because then that gets on your surface and then you get lines in your mud. That's what we don't want. If I clean this out pretty good, not 100%, but you know, good enough. Okay, now I'm ready to mix up some more. I'm not going to mix it up yet until I know that the ceiling's dry, and I'll be ready for my next little bit of quickset. Now most of the time I use quickset on patches only. I wouldn't do an entire room with quickset, only because you got to mix it up by hand all the time, and it's a little bit different to work with. So if you got a whole room and if you're not very good, use the general purpose, the all-purpose joint compound that comes out of a bucket that's already pre-mixed before going any other way. You can use quickset for an entire room, but that is if you're good. Then you could use a 45-minute or even a 90-minute. You can mix it up, leave it in a bucket for a while, knowing that you've got to get it done as quickly as possible. So what do I usually do? I usually use a quickset for patches only.